Donald Trump's dominance over the Republican Party has been nothing short of transformative. Since his rise in 2016, the GOP has become synonymous with his brash style, populist rhetoric, and America First agenda. But no political figure is eternal. The question of what happens to the Republican Party after Trump exits the political stage looms large. Will his influence endure, or will the party undergo a dramatic reinvention? Trump's departure, whether through the end of his term, retirement, or diminishing relevance, will leave a vacuum in a party that has been reshaped in his image. Over the years, the GOP's traditional values of limited government, fiscal conservatism, and international interventionism have taken a back seat to Trump's brand of nationalism, protectionism, and anti-establishment fervor. For many voters, Trump is the Republican Party. His outsized personality has overshadowed policy discussions, turning the GOP into a movement centered on loyalty to him rather than adherence to a cohesive ideology. In the short term, his departure will likely trigger a battle for the soul of the party. Several factions within the GOP are poised to vie for dominance. The most visible group comprises Trump loyalists, often referred to as MAGA Republicans. They are committed to preserving his policies and rhetoric, believing his populist approach is the key to future electoral success. Figures like Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene are already positioning themselves as heirs to Trump's legacy. This faction will push for a continuation of his America First agenda, viewing any deviation as a betrayal of his base. On the other side are traditional conservatives, often called the Old Guard. This faction longs for a return to the party's pre-Trump principles: free markets, strong national defense, and a more measured tone in political discourse. Leaders like Senator Mitt Romney and former Governor Larry Hogan have been vocal critics of Trump's style, advocating for a GOP that appeals to moderates and suburban voters. However, this group faces an uphill battle. Trump's influence on the Republican voter base has been profound, and the Old Guard's vision may struggle to resonate with a party now defined by its populist edge. A third and less predictable group consists of younger, more diverse conservatives who seek to blend elements of Trump's populism with a modernized platform. This emerging faction could prioritize issues like tech regulation, income inequality, and climate change, aiming to broaden the GOP's appeal among millennials, Gen Z, and minority voters. Leaders like Senator Josh Hawley and Representative Elise Stefanik could spearhead this effort, but their success will depend on whether the party is ready to evolve beyond its current identity. The Republican Party's future will also be shaped by demographic and cultural trends. America's electorate is becoming younger, more urban, and more racially diverse, groups that have traditionally leaned Democratic. If the GOP continues to rely heavily on its base of older, rural, and white voters, it risks long-term irrelevance in an evolving political landscape. However, if it can adapt to these changes, the party could carve out a new path forward, much like it did after previous electoral setbacks. Trump's exit will likely force a reckoning with the party's relationship to extremism. His tenure has emboldened far-right groups and conspiratorial thinking, complicating the GOP's ability to present itself as a party of mainstream ideas. Republican leaders will need to decide whether to distance themselves from these elements or continue embracing them to energize the base. The outcome of this decision will have significant implications for the party's credibility and electability on the national stage. Electoral strategy will be another critical factor. During Trump's presidency, the GOP made gains with non-traditional Republican voters, particularly working-class and minority communities. Maintaining these gains while regaining suburban voters who fled the party during his tenure will require a delicate balancing act. Republicans will need to craft a message that appeals to both groups without alienating either, a challenge that may define the next generation of GOP leadership. Media will play a pivotal role in shaping the party's post-Trump identity. Conservative outlets like Fox News, Newsmax, and the Daily Wire have been instrumental in amplifying Trump's message. Their coverage will influence which faction gains prominence and how Republican voters perceive their options. Similarly, social media platforms, where Trump remains a polarizing figure, will continue to serve as battlegrounds for the party's future direction. Internationally, Trump's departure could also shift the GOP's stance on foreign policy. His isolationist approach, pulling out of international agreements, criticizing NATO allies, and engaging in trade wars, was a stark departure from the party's traditional support for global engagement. Whether the GOP returns to its roots or embraces a new hybrid approach will depend on who takes the reins. Ultimately, the Republican Party's post-Trump trajectory will hinge on its ability to reconcile the competing visions within its ranks. Will it double down on Trumpism, evolve into something entirely new, or attempt to resurrect its traditional identity? The answer will not only determine the GOP's future, but also the broader shape of American politics. As Trump's influence wanes, the Republican Party faces a defining moment, one that will test its resilience, adaptability, and commitment to its core principles.